and CDC criteria for Gulf War illness are not listed as having one of those other chronic multi-symptom illnesses or denied disability for the Gulf War. I know that this committee isn't about benefits and so forth, and that isn't, and my point isn't specifically about benefits, but I'm pointing out that the failure to call it Gulf War illness has repercussions and will have repercussions in both the clinical, administrative, and research settings. And repercussions that are not favorable to our understanding of what Gulf War illness is.
Well, we're trying to change that, because
and you can change it by following the IOM's recommendation.
Yes.
Oh, well, okay, go ahead.
So I'm a little concerned about the time. This is something that we will be able to discuss, I would expect, for a long time, but Jim especially is hopeful to make a comment. So I'd like to ask, sorry, Jim.
You guys were talking about compensation and Gulf War illness and all of this, and one is the multi-symptom illness portion of all of this is clarified in the revision in 2010 about the futures. But two, in my meeting with the Undersecretary of Benefits, and that one of the biggest obstacles of all this is the fact that there's no disability benefit guidelines for doing an examination, and it should promise that a DBQ form will be devised and come out shortly for Gulf War veterans for the undiagnosed/Gulf War illness portion of the claim, which should help out with all of this for veterans of multi-symptom Gulf War illness/undiagnosed illness, because there is none for these veterans when they go through their examinations and their claims. And that's what she told me personally in the meeting I had last month. And that will help out the veterans and the doctors and clinicians.
I'm going to hold my question.
okay. There are two other IOM reports or studies ongoing right now. The Secretary referred to those this morning. I think I just read to the information on the slides. First, volume 10 is an 18-month study, so we'll be getting that back next year, and we'll be on the designing of an EPI study to look at epidemiologic study to look at multiple sclerosis and internal problems as a 3-year study.
So may I ask a quick question about that second study? Can you hear me? Great. So I've been told that MS is a great example of a problem that may not be reflected in hospitalization or mortality statistics, so a broader look would really be useful. And I was told that this second study will involve combining healthcare data sets from multiple different sources, not only the VA. Is that still the plan?
Yes. And Dr. Erickson, who had to leave, will be back tomorrow morning, and he gave the charge to the IOM committee, so he's involved with that study.
It's actually a study and not designing a study. Really, it's a study.
Yes, it's a study. The IOM will, part of the charge was for the IOM to hire contractors to look at data sets. We have a couple of repositories in the VA. One is the Gulf War era cohort repository. It's still a pilot project, but the patients are being enrolled now. There's a survey involved with this and a blood draw, so there will be specimens and survey data for folks who want to use this resource in the future. The pilot study is aimed at collecting material from 3,000 people. If that goes well, we'll have a bigger study or a bigger project that is aimed at 30,000. Again, surveys and blood. The other one is Gulf War Veterans Illness Biorepository. It's a tissue bank, and it will be collecting brain and spinal cord tissue. And it was, well, it began in 2012, as it says up there. And we had a review of the pilot project in November of last year. So that one is going forward as a full project. And, it's sort of an offshoot of the ALS. Well, what started out as a Gulf War ALS brain bank, which morphed into an ALS brain bank, and now the Gulf War part has been pulled out. So we still have the ALS brain bank, but it's different from the Gulf War Illnesses Biorepository, which is also a brain bank. So the specimens in these repositories would be available to researchers outside the VA, but obviously there would be a requesting process, a review, and the usual sorts of things that are required by RACs and HIPAA. So the website there, address there, gives you an idea of where to find them. See, and last but not least, let me just mention that we do try to coordinate what we do in the VA's Gulf War program with DOD. And so when we visit up there, DOD folks come down here, we periodically find that we're reviewing the same proposals, and there have even been instances where it's the same proposal. The same investigator has been approved for funding in both, and so we have to resolve that little issue of double dipping and whatnot. The results, the annual updates of what we've been doing, what the DOD's been doing, goes into the annual report to Congress. The web address listed there is for the 2013 annual report. The 2014 is making its way through the administrative process. We turned that in February, so it should be out very soon. And we'll post that in the same area of the same website, the research website. And then VA and DOD are both members of two working groups listed there, the Deployment Health Working Group and the Medical Research Working Group, which report to a health executive committee, which reports to a joint executive committee, which means the higher-ups in the VA and DOD receive reports from these two committees. So the various deployment issues that you've probably seen just recently are briefed to the Deployment Health Working Group, and so it's a way of keeping VA and DOD folks on the same page with a lot of issues that come up. Gulf War issues are among those. And I think that's it. So, go ahead and next.
I guess my point is, from the perspective of a research advisory committee, what is our role here, as it has to do with the name, which was Gulf War Illness name. You pointed out the clinical reason to have formally known as piece to it. But I think as a research committee, you don't really need to do that. I think the research committee just agreed to have a research name, research case definition, and it wouldn't affect clinical care guidelines, because we don't affect clinical care guidelines. We hope that our work does someday, but this is pretty much a research advisory committee.
You're right, and the point though is that we're part of the VA, and so whatever the wording the VA uses, that's the official wording. I mean, we have the VBA, VHA, and so we're trying to keep everything consistent, and that's the reason for the terminology we had on the screen, or had on the screen there. But that doesn't preclude you from calling me Gulf War Illness.
The other point I wanted to make was the IOM report that recommended Fecunda and Kansas It's within this committee's purview to have a conversation about that. And I know my own group, which was using Fukuda until maybe 4 years ago when I was completely convinced by the science of Kansas was a much stronger and clearer case definition for points of research. And we shifted to Kansas. So I think that we might want to have that conversation and the reasons, the thought behind that, and whether it's for this committee or future committee, I think that conversation should happen here.
Sure, and, you know, well, I think Dr. Steele's paper defining the Kansas definition, she analyzed her data set using the definition. So I mean, it's possible to use them. It's possible to use them both within the data set. So I think that's why I recommended the operation that you can use.
Yeah.
And, you know, the reasons were that, the main reason was that those two definitions captured the most commonly reported symptoms, and they really didn't have enough information to choose one.
Well, actually, there clearly is enough information because the data clearly show higher specificity in the Kansas criteria unequivocally.
Yes, but Beatrice, haven't you said before that we had too many exclusionary criteria for the Kansas definition?
No. What I said is that for clinical work, you want to take out the exclusionary criteria because having Gulf War illness does not prevent you from getting heart disease or multiple sclerosis or any of the other conditions. For research, you want as homogeneous a group as possible in order to have statistical power at smaller sample size for cost efficiency. But that does not prevent veterans that have Gulf War illness from developing other conditions. So the point that I was trying to make is that for the clinical setting, the exclusionary criteria that are appropriate for the research setting may not any longer be appropriate. I did have another question which related to your slide that talked about what the sort of decision-making approach was in deciding where to designate funding. And one of the areas pointed to is it aligns with VA, DHA, ORG priorities. And I wondered if the VA could consider instead having a veteran relevancy panel and having it, the question be, is it aligned with affected Gulf War veteran priorities? Because I think including the most important stakeholder in that decision-making is very important and really does do a good job of directing research in a fashion that's most relevant to the concerns of that group.
Sure, and we do that, Beatrice. I mean,
it's not listed in your sequence. Is there a formal veteran relevancy review panel?
No.
Okay, so that was actually discussed.
We've not turned down any Gulf War projects that have met the review criteria for safety and scientific value.
Well, that brings me to another question. It would be interesting to look at the research projects that the VA has turned down for supposed reasons of quality that have then been funded by the DoD and look to see whether you agree that the findings emanating from that research really wasn't of the quality and importance that you purported that it was. And I think that's kind of an interesting way to begin to look at whether these, whether the approach that you're using ends up really funding the right research or whether you are, for whatever reason, excluding important and meritorious research by this process.
Beatrice, this is Steve. I'm beginning to worry that our time will not permit the open mic sessions that we need to have.
Okay.
And I wonder if it would be okay with you and okay with Victor if we table this important issue. Okay.
Just for the committee members, in your binders, you have the funding portfolio from VA. You also have it from CRP, so you do have the DoD currently funded studies. We have a little summary from the DoD program manager. I asked her in this particular one to concentrate on the treatment studies. So you have that in your binders, you'll see what's currently being funded. And Vic, I would just ask if you could send us the strategic plan that's updated as soon as you can. as soon as it's come through, you said it's coming out soon. We can share it with the committee members, and also the new RFAs, typically in the past, when there were changes made, we would take copies of that.
Yeah.
So if we can get that to share with the committee, that would be great. Thank you.
Dr. O'Leary is in the ninth hole. So you are our final official speaker today, and I think this will be one of the most exciting topics of the day, so thank you so much.
It's terrific to have an opportunity to talk about this. I'm going to dispense with using a PowerPoint presentation. Folks can read that to get more detail. I will instead hit on some of the highlights of the Maine Veteran Program and where we're taking it with regards to Gulf War veterans research and Gulf War illness in particular. So first of all, there are 53 slides there. That's more than we can obviously cover. So the first thing to talk about is how MVPC is set up. It is a sample. It could be considered a convenient sample. We are attempting to enroll any veteran that is willing to participate and who is in one of the areas in which we are currently recruiting. We're recruiting in about 50 medical centers at any given time. Those are changing over time. And we ask the veterans to do three things. First of all, is to give us a specimen of their blood after giving us their informed consent. Second, to give us permission to be able to do genetic analyses, to do proteomic analyses on that blood, to integrate it with information from their electronic health record, to integrate it with information taken from 2 questionnaires that we send out on a regular basis. First of all, a baseline questionnaire, which is a smattering of just about everything, and then a longer lifestyle questionnaire, which also covers a variety of issues, and would probably be considered inadequate by any epidemiologist that focuses on a specific area of investigation, such as heart disease or cancer epidemiology or whatever, because we like people to be able to actually get these done in 5 minute time. Third, we ask them to give us permission to bring these together for basically any legitimate peer-reviewed research purpose. And so it is a very broad consent that we ask folks to give us. There's a reason for that, and it has to do with the fact that determining limits of informed consent can be very difficult. And one of the things I've noticed in particular over the last 10 years since I've been in the VA is that different people will interpret the limit of an informed consent differently. An example, not related to Gulf War illness, would be a study, an informed consent, which had limited studies on mental health or limited studies of cardiovascular disease. And the question is, when somebody is coming up with a study that is looking at PTSD and cardiovascular disease, is that within or outside the scope? So by asking people for a broad range of consent, which is an amazing gift to fellow veterans and to the public, we get past the issue of what is limitation of consent, which is very important. So we bring all these together in a de-identified fashion. When the questionnaires come back, when the blood comes into us, it is coming with a numerical identifier, a single numerical identifier that brings all of these together. We do have a map of that numerical identifier that can bring us back to the electronic health record. Probably a handful of people that can actually access the information from the electronic health record, bring it over to merge it with the MVP database. That is not a trivial exercise. Looking at electronic health record data and turning it into a phenotype or a case definition is a non-trivial effort. We will come back to that with regards to the Gulf War study. It is not a clinical grade analysis. I said that we were using a single identifier. If we were doing a clinical laboratory test we would use a minimum of 2 identifiers, and we take very special precautions within the laboratory to make sure that the results follow a whole bunch of protocols that are basically spelled out in the term CLIA compliant, compliant with the Clinical Laboratory Improvement Amendments of 1988. That drives up the cost immensely, 3 to 4-fold. And so we've made the decision not to do that, but rather if we find research results that are relevant, to ultimately refer people for retesting within a CLIA laboratory so that we can establish for clinical purposes genetic changes that are important for their clinical care. So that is the nature of the study. So far, we have enrolled, I checked the number someplace, 369,261 subjects as of the end of last week. That number will hit 370,000 sometime tomorrow. About 50,000, when we hit 400,000, which will be this summer around June or July, about 50,000 of those will be both warrior veterans, and about half we expect to have been deployed within the theater. So that gives you some idea of what we have to work with in terms of this population. Each of those is having done a chip-based analysis using an exome chip that is very similar to the one used by UK Biobank and by Kaiser, which we have also enriched for a variety of other considerations. For example, we are enriched in markers that are more common in African Americans. It is not a chip that was specifically designed to attack any disease, but it was a chip that was designed to have a high power to be able to see both single nucleotide polymorphisms, or SNPs, and copy number variation associated with a wide variety of diseases, focusing on the exome regions and certain of the regulatory regions. This does not have the power of an exome or an enhanced exome sequence, but it is a whole lot cheaper. And I think this is important, and we can talk about how we follow up on these. If we look at the particular, some of the particulars to give you a sense, I looked up on the chip, butyrylcholinesterase, about noon today, and we have about 205 different SNPs that are associated with the butyrylcholinesterase gene. I did not look at one, but I expect that we have a fair amount of information. Now, when I say associated with, some of those may be outside the gene, but they would be expected to. Let's say many of these were within the gene itself. I just didn't have a chance to check out all 205 SNPs. So what are we talking about doing with this? Well, first of all, we know that we have a subset of Gulf War veterans that have self-identified. We would like to be able to verify that self-identification against the DMDC database, Defense Manpower Deployment Standards, to make sure that the self-identified information matches up with the information that we've gotten from the cohort in the time of original enrollment. And then we would like to mail out an additional set of questionnaires. Well, first of all, permission. Are you willing to participate? And then, if so, ask both for your veterans to return another set of questionnaires, which are very similar to the questionnaires that were developed for the CSP 585 study that was earlier referred to. That is to say, we are going to ask about all of the criteria associated with both CDC and steel definitions, and have that replicated using the precise questions from the questionnaires used for both of those studies. And then in addition, we've enhanced this with information of a general sort with regards to exposure to persisting bromide to insecticides and to where people were deployed by their own recounting so that can be mapped back to fluid modeling experiments. It's not a perfect questionnaire. That is to say, first of all, we are relying on questionnaire data as been mentioned earlier, some of the recollections may be imperfect. We clearly are not in a position to expect veterans to be able to identify each of the potential insecticides with which they could be exposed. So we've basically got lumped together on that. I think that's the best we can do. And even that, we're going to see some crossover from one side to another. And I think this is, you're used to dealing with a certain amount of group pollution in genomic experiments, and we would expect to see some here. It's amazing, you can get away with a lot of pollution if you have enough of the sample size. So what do we think we need in a sample size? Well, we're hoping to get about 7,500 folks that are actually suffering from both hormone and C2B in the study, which isn't a supersized GWAS study, but it's a pretty good sized study. If we can do better than that, that's wonderful. But we believe that this is a reasonable estimate based on responses to another study related to PTSD that we've asked people to participate in going forward. Obviously, if we're able to enroll more people, we can include more people. We have some exclusion criteria that we're trying to develop as well by mapping back to the electronic health record. And I think I'll just mention that these data will all be pulled together in a way that they're available for reanalysis and voted upon later. So any data that's pulled into this study becomes part of a permanent data set, which can then be enhanced by people that might decide, well, we want to look at EHR for something else, and we want to go back to these studies and to participate. This is a big study as a whole. Participation in MVP from an investigator perspective approaches 200 people. Overall, we have 4 coordinating centers involved: Boston, which manages many of the computer systems and manages an automated biobank, which has space for about 4 million specimens. West Haven, which is managing the mail-out and the scanning of our questionnaires. We have a call center in Canandaigua to answer questions about enrollment. We have a group in Salt Lake City working on extracting data from the electronic health record, and another group in Palo Alto that will ultimately be responsible if we move on to exome sequencing, full genome sequencing of these, for handling a lot of the informatics associated with that. Finally, there's a group in Durham with which several people within this room have worked. That's a piece of the planning on this, as well as on CSP 585. So with that, I think I will shut up and answer questions for folks rather than droning on.
Well, that was incredibly exciting. Thank you. I neglected to properly introduce Dr. O'Leary, and I'm sure he's known to most everybody here. Dr. O'Leary is Chief Research and Development Officer. I'm learning monikers. This is Credo at the VA, at the Veterans Administration Office of Research and Development. And you know that he is that Dr. O'Leary is an MD, PhD, very well trained at Stanford, and that Michigan ran the section of cellular pathology at the Armed Forces Institute of Pathology. Armed Forces Institute. Sorry.
The first federal clinical
before coming to the VA about 11 years ago. Was that? So, questions?
You mentioned proteomics early on. What is or is there a mechanism to recontact folks self-reporting as a local illness that we get blood samples from them that would be collected in a manner consistent with our ability to do omic analysis?
Yes, of course we did retain serum samples from the time of the original. We could consider designing a study that would, I don't know how to get.
Just get closer to it, and I can hear you.
Okay, we could consider designing studies or working to design studies to pick up other stuff. And proteomics, of course, is challenging. It's hard to get two laboratories that even agree on protein counts in those proteomics experiments nowadays. So that would be a great topic for future discussions as to how to do this sort of study.
But the MVP is open, because it's really about
Yes, we
the
can.
actual collection.
So
and
we
I know it's-
can recontact. It's intended to be an ongoing epidemiologic cohort and be used for genomics, but not only for genomics. I expect to see many epidemiologic studies that have no genomics at all come out of MVP over the long run. We are still in the process of capacity building for MVP, however, so I don't have infinite throughput capability with regards to pulling back specimens and things of that sort. We are still, this airplane is perhaps 60% completed. We are flying it as we build it. And that does provide some limitations on the maneuverability of the aircraft.
Just a bit more on the timeline, what do you think realistically, when do you think this might be accomplished?
So the scientific review of the proposal I expect to occur on the 4th of June with the genomics part of the Cooperative Studies Scientific Evaluation Committee. The panel has been selected. It includes a medical geneticist, 2 statistical geneticists, and 2 SMEs who've been funded by various agencies to work in the Gulf War arena. It then will take some time to gear because you have to get through various committee approvals. And so I would expect to see some activity beginning around the beginning of fiscal year 16. I hope it can happen before that, but I'm just, it's getting tough. I mean, that's not an extraordinary time frame. And then it will take some time to get the contracts done for getting out to get the questionnaires printed and moved out. I would expect that probably most of the first year and maybe into the second year we'll be doing the assembling responses to the questionnaires and extracting data from DMDC and putting it together, and then probably at least at 17% time when real analysis is done on it. I wish I could make it faster, but the fact is that research is always a lot slower than it feels like it ought to be.
Is this going to be Dr. Provenzal's group that's going to be doing this?
So, Dr. Provenzali is involved in it. The planning committee is quite broad. The lead from a planning perspective is John Picado. There are a couple of statistical geneticists, one from Yale and one from Duke, that are involved at this point. And this committee management structure can change over time. We are executing this as a cooperative study. And I think the important thing is that we consider cooperative studies to be really an activity of the department and of ORD as a whole. In fact, we don't even use the term principal investigator except when we're dealing with the IRB. We talk about a study chair and the study executive committee managing this study.
A tremendous opportunity to have this kind of sample size. One more question for you, Tim. This is really quite exciting. You talked about SNPs. Will there be opportunity to look at SNPs for things like inflammatory markers, cytokines, things of that sort?
Sure, they're there, and they'll be looked at using what I call standard techniques associated with the combination of gene and environmental exposures. And we're not focusing on any two genes. They will, obviously, these two genes will get a focus, but the initial pass on everything will be using standard GWAS techniques. And then, depending on what we find, it may be important to go back and do targeted sequencing in certain regions, perhaps exome sequencing. We'll just have to look at cost and capability and what the best strategy is to nail things down. And we'll hope we don't have to get to a place that requires us to go back and do Sanger to make up for some of the limitations of next-gen sequencing.
Tim, I may have missed this, the timetable for the genotyping.
Genotyping is, we'll have the genotyping actually done before the rest of this goes on board. We have about 230,000 genotypes done already. We expect to have the genotypes caught up to within a month or 2 months of 400,000 target. There's a certain amount of cleaning of genotypes that goes on, so we're going through the cleaning on the first tranche of 200,000 now. The cleaning of the second tranche will start approximately August, September time frame. It will take a few months to get that cleaning of the GWAS data done. So that part is not going to be rate limiting. The rate limiting part of this will be getting back information to decide who is and who isn't suffering from both war illness according to which definition, and look for how we handle missing data and all of those wonderful things that are a problem with any study and are no less a problem with a large study than with a small one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank our last two speakers, especially for permitting us to end with 1 minute before 5, when we started 10 minutes late. So that is really a double achievement. Well, this is now the time for public comment, and we have a long list of people, and I would start. I know that I'm speaking for everybody on the committee. Thank you for all of you for coming, and thank you for staying the day. It means a lot to see your interest. Denise Nichols also gave me lessons in how to do this, and I'll try to behave and listen to Denise. And I think that the plan that you recommended is that we begin with the people who have traveled the furthest and who haven't spoken before.
Yeah,
So,
I think I'll just call out the new people and they'll come up.
Great.
And it's not in any particular order, but we'll get to all the new people that have never come before to give them the first opportunity. We want to encourage them to come back with their fellow vets. So I'll just start.
and we'll keep comments in a way that as many people as possible can speak, and we'll also have a public session tomorrow.
Okay. So, Joanne, want to head us off? Next will be James People, so he'll stand ready. We'll move quicker.
Good afternoon. My name is Joanne Lemieux. Good afternoon. My name is Joanne Lemieux. I present myself as a Gulf War veteran, but at the same time, I'm also presenting myself as the widow of a Gulf War veteran. It has been an honor and a pleasure to hear you all, to see the wonderful work that you're doing in your research. But I do encourage you to look at the 25 years that we have been suffering. to look at where we're gonna go and how you're gonna look at it. My husband died of colon cancer. I know several of my unit are suffering right now from kidney failure, from colon cancer. Many have died from heart attacks, and most within the last year. I myself suffer from many of the illnesses that are considered undiagnosed. I'm constantly in pain, and I hope that what we bring to you is a face for those that can't be here. To look at us and to see that as difficult as it is for us to sit all day, that we're interested in the work that you're doing and how you're going to proceed with that. And with that, I leave you for the rest.
Hello, my name is James Pepple, 32 years in the United States Army. Was in Gulf War for the whole period of time, front line, same as Jim over there. We were exposed to everything, and that would be the one thing that he brought up was, I see the individual aspects of checking for this type of thing or that type of thing, but you're talking 32 things here. Accommodation, like getting the, what was that drink, 7 different types of alcohol in it, you know, to get drunk on. That's about what we got. So I'm not sure how you can do it, but that's something we need to be looked at. It's not one item over here or over there. It's a combination of these things. So I appreciate everything you're doing. It was a great meeting. Hope to see more of you.
Dean Brownhill will be next. He gets the award, I think, with California.
Yeah, I could pass my comments.
That's okay. Go ahead.
My name is Dean Longholm, 649th MP Company. Many of the members know from previous testimony, so I'll make this short. I heard one of the members say if we had a way of treating these people, it was in reference to the mothballs and the multiple chemicals that we've been exposed to, that it may be mothballs that trigger somebody. And that trigger may be different for everybody, but detox, everybody says, well, you guys need detox. You know, but for 25 years, the VA has said you need to detox and does not provide detox services. If you're a veteran that's suffering and you're told that you're a pill hound or you're a drunk or you're looking for psychological relief from these symptoms, but aren't given an avenue to detox, I'll get with you later, but there's a 28-day program that basically rids your body of the toxins that you come into every day, eating the preservatives in foods. We all hit these more and more, the dyes that are in your drink. 28 days, it makes a world of difference. But if you don't have that information, it's a lot like the study that came out with CQ10. Money went to the research for CQ10. The VA comes out and says, hey, we got this great idea, you guys with chronic fatigue, take this CQ10, it should make you feel better. Being a troop, you run down and you say, hey, I need my CQ10, and the VA says, no way, we don't do that. You gotta go to Rite Aid. If you're not compensating somebody, they don't have the money to go spend $40 on a bottle of pills. Not being able to get the compensation because we don't have a clear definition of what Gulf War syndrome was is still present 25 years later. Friday, just Friday, I was at a Veterans Benefit Award. The VBA said, you're entitled to medical services. It says right there on the award letter. Well, for the year, the guy's been battling the VA to get medical services. So I go from the VA, the office with the suit and ties, and we go over to the hospital. And I say, look, it says he's entitled. We just left. He's entitled to medical services. Well, he has another than honorable discharge, and we're not going to see him. The VBA says you are going to see him. Well, he's got another than honorable, we're not going to see him. If the hospital, now, I'm pretty assertive and I know my way around the system somewhat, but if the hospital tells a veteran, we're not going to see you, his next step is jail. That's the way it is. And that's really frustrating. Sorry. Oh,
Give it to him one more minute.
no, I'm good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, guys.
Okay, Kevin, Karen? Do you want to comment?
Who's up after him? Who's after Kevin?
Michael Bain?
New guy in town, 372nd, the famous 372nd, not the infamous 372nd.
I think it's infamous.
Came with, met all my brothers and sisters here overnight, and when I realized that I'm not going to dwell on the past, I did come to a conclusion that the protocol seems flawed. One VA facility and the next state over don't have the same protocol as diagnosing or testing or even getting you on a list if you were a Gulf War veteran. And if they can't diagnose it, it's like they pigeonhole you into something that they understand. And once you're caught in that web, you're stuck. And you can't go any, excuse me, elsewhere as far as the Gulf War illness is concerned. So that's it.
Michael Bain?
Mike Van, Gulf War vet, myself, Tim Fearon, Jim Pepple, and Mike Newton served together. Been going at this since basically came home.
Can you speak into the mic a little more?
Been in touch with, I've known Denise for years. Some other people. Records disappear and stuff like that.
Can you speak into the mic?
Records disappear, things like that, and it kind of gets frustrating. Take part in studies. Still, nothing's really getting done as far as health-wise. Like Jim said before, we want our health back, and that's the main thing. Thank you.
Paul Johnson?
Paul Johnston. I'm from the 144 Supply Company at Hamilton, New Jersey. We're a heavy material supply company. Our unit was scattered all over the battlefield. We stored captured enemy equipment in damaged U.S. Half the stuff was covered with radioactive material from friendly fire, DU, and then the other half was covered with the unexploded chemical weapons that were blown up. The unit is all sick in different levels, different degrees. We all have chemical sensitivity. Most of us have a lot of breathing problems. And what we run into every time, scattered at the different VAs, first off, they don't see us as a group. They make sure we're not in contact with each other, appointments, even though we may have the same doctors, or run separately. The other thing is, they do not write down what we tell them about our illnesses. They actually do not keep real files, which is one of the things that should be done. You're talking about accurate records, but when a Persian Gulf veteran tries to tell them what's wrong with them, and they'll tell you right to your face, it doesn't fit in this book's diagram of what we're allowed to treat you for. It gets pretty disgusting when you're begging to be treated. And you have to fight with them through the bureaucracy, trying to get the stuff you need to stay alive. I got medevac back. I'm not one of the ones that got here and got sick. I got sick over there, and a lot of us did. You guys don't realize it. When they're talking about medical records being lost, from day one, they destroyed and shredded our medical records. I'm medevac back, and you're lucky if you can find any evidence of it. I can't even get diagnosed back to the day that I got medevac back. I get a few years later. The whole system about what we're talking about here, where you guys are talking about diagnosis, trying to treat us. Well, first off, I think keep an accurate record about us and actually try and keep real data on who we are. It's not a secret who we are. They knew who they sent. There's a list. You have our addresses, our phone numbers, our social security numbers, yet we have to hunt this down and find this by accident, that this meeting's going on. I didn't know about this until about a month ago, and because my wife started working in DC and started browsing through the notices. That's how I notified my unit. A couple more people will probably come tomorrow. Most of them are waiting to hear from me about what's going on. And it's the same thing. We're all sick in different levels. All these guys are all sick in different levels. We'll tell you, it mattered on which way the wind blew. It's no joke. And it's not a lie. It's the way it is. We understand that. All we ever asked for was an honest medical care. To actually be seen by a doctor that really cared about us. Actually to have somebody to go to that will actually look at really treating us. That's all we ask for. And I know you guys are doing your best trying to do the research to find it. But as the other gentleman said, you have to look at, we were hit with multiple chemicals. We were given shots multiple times, experimental pills. We were in a country that chemical weapons have been used multiple times in against its own people. And here we are in this country. Will we go back again to fight these people for this reason? Yes. But all we ask for is what we asked for in the beginning. If we get sick, take care of us. Get us back to health. That's all we want. That's all everybody here wants. I would like to breathe again. Without huffing and puffing. Be able to walk down the street again without huffing and puffing. And I'm sure most of these guys are the same way. So please, try to do the best you can at trying to define a cure for us. That's all we're asking. Thank you.
Jennifer Fox.
My name is Jennifer Kloss. I served in the United States Navy. I'm here for 3 reasons. One is, well, now I'm here for 4 reasons because I've been listening to everything you guys have been saying all day, even though I've been bouncing around because I'm in a lot of pain. One thing really bothers me, and that's you said that you don't want to call it golf or illness anymore. We are still having a Gulf War. It hasn't finished. It started in 1991 with Operation Desert Storm. There's a difference between an operation and a war. We are in a war called Gulf War, still, from the VA, that started in 91 until further determined or undetermined date. It hasn't ended. So this 90-91 thing, yes, they got bombed. Yes, there were ammo dumps. Yes, there was all kinds of exposures. But I was there in 93. I was on a ship. I was in the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Bahrain. My ex-husband had a brain tumor with acromegaly, and he's lucky he's still alive. But he has severe growth hormone levels in the 800s. He has diabetes. He has enlarged joints. He has an enlarged heart. All kinds of issues. I have Gulf War illness, and for lack of a better term, because I don't have another term, I'm diagnosed and I'm rated, so I'm not worried about compensation and pension. I'm worried about getting healthy, and I'm 44 years old, and I'm sicker than most 90-year-olds. My grandma could lap me around a nursing home. Okay? I don't want to live another 40 years like this. It hurts. It hurts so bad. It hurts so bad to watch my 21-year-old daughter start having the same symptoms I'm having because she was conceived a month after getting back. It hurts to watch my husband, my second husband, start getting sick after I've been with him for 10 years, which is 10 years after I came back. This is not okay. I did not have PD pills. I did get shots. I was not in an ammo dump. I was not shot at. I was a welder on a ship. I did my job. I took care of everything I was told to do. I got in line like I was told to do. I took the shots I was told to take. I went where I was told to go. And I come back, and all I can get are mammograms and pap smears because everybody's worried about women's health. I need you guys to be more forceful. If you guys could please expand your research to include me, because I am a Gulf War veteran, and I'm suffering. I need your help, please. I can't even get in a study that might help me. I can't even donate blood because the studies aren't funded. What is the point of funding all these studies if my primary care physician can't even figure out how to refer me to RISC? Didn't even know how. She had to go through the OAF and OBF coordinator to find out where the program was on the computer because there is no Gulf War coordinator at my hospital. There's nobody representing us. This is too important. There's too many thousands of people out there that are really sick. And every day I go online, 22 people are killing themselves every day, and a lot of them are because of this. That's a lot of deaths. Please do something. Thank you.
Valerie Malkins hasn't spoken before, and you up here, you want to talk?
I'm going to decline till tomorrow, thank you.
Okay, we'll keep moving along then. Steve Holton.
How you doing, Steve Holman? I just recently come out of the DOD study in which the other gentleman was talking about. It's using the firefighters 9/11 detoxification program. There has been varying success with this program. For myself, I approximately 15% better cognitively. Some rashes have cleared up. Other than that, my bones and everything else got worse. It is my hope that this board will continue to delve into positive research for the benefit of Desert Storm veterans, which may ultimately help other veterans and the possibility of groundbreaking discoveries in the medical community. I want to welcome the new board members and any new veterans that are here for the first time. Being my fourth time at the RAC, it is my hope that board members and veterans come together as one cohesive team with the end goal of only what is best for the veteran. I mention this because there's tensions in the past that I particularly do not like. For the VA members, I know there's been changes made during this transition and trying to stop the bleeding from all the negative press. But I know you'll continue to prove the image of the VA with transparent disclosures of all findings. Your ability to come forthright with any information paramount to veterans' health exposure in a timely manner will help heal the distrust from veterans may have. There have been recent studies that have shown promise, or at least improvements in veterans. I ask at what point the VA, DOD, or anyone is going to pick up these studies and implement them on a larger scale. If a veteran is asked a question, would you participate in a study or research that may only give you 10% improvement in just one of your areas, the answer will be yes. So please, bring forth these studies that have shown positive outcomes to a large scale. I want to bring the attention to the VA. I discussed it with briefly with the gentleman that just spoke, second to last, for everybody else to know. I recently went to the Baltimore VA where I had to go pick up an inhaler because you're off of every med you're on. And they wanted me to have my inhaler. I ran into a Desert Storm veteran, female, who was in process me, that worked for the VA, knew nothing about any of this. Knew nothing about risk, knew nothing about the Gulf War Registry, knew nothing about the RAC, knew nothing about any research at all. So it's my proposal to ask the VA, when we do go live stream, to have every Desert Storm veteran representative at the hospital that registers us to attend the live stream, then turn around and teach or implement ways of cultivating the doctors and the directors to be able to treat us in the proper way. I also ask if the VA to make big posters with the end date that has been recently extended till December of next year. Big posters say, Desert Storm veterans, urgent notice. You know, part 1, have you registered for the Gulf War Registry? Part 2, do you know about the risk? Part 3, do you know about the research? Part 4, do you know about the RAC?
National TV.
Things that are simple, relatively cheap, poster. We all look at, and we come into a VA hospital at all the posters when we hand our keys off to have our car parked. So we're looking to see what's up and what's next. And in conclusion, I would like to remember 8 brothers that have passed. Paul Lyons, you guys know him. Steve Robinson recently. And from my own personal unit, Charlie Company 782nd Maintenance Battalion, that supported the 505th with the Fast 3, 6 brothers passed away already. So these brothers were instrumental in research and areas of improvement. And finally, God bless brothers, rest in peace. We've had it from here.
First, I think it was pretty awesome that Secretary McDonald took the time to come in and see everybody this morning. I'm not service connected. Was denied twice, so I'm not going to dwell on that. I just know what I feel. I know what I've seen. It's been 25 years. Okay. 25 years. We're at the top of the coaster right now. It's all downhill. I ain't going to be here at 20 more. That's coming from my civilian doctor. The work you people are doing, terrific. Dr. Crawford, that dog of yours is on the right trail. Honest to God. I wholeheartedly believe that. I really do. Did anybody here ever see the movie 50 First Dates?
Yeah.
No? Come on.
Yeah.
Raise your hand.
Oh, the rest of you guys, you just don't want to admit it.
It's about a girl. She got in a car wreck, bumped her head, okay, and from that point on, every day is a new day for her.
Same day.
She gets up, and it's the same day all over pretty much, but she doesn't know who she is, and they have to nurture her every day. They pop a VCR tape in, that's how old the movie is, by the way. They pop a VCR tape in and it explains who she is, where she came from. Every morning's like that for me. So, keep up the good work. I'll be back. I don't bitch much, but I'll be back. Thank you.
Somebody who drove in, that he heard on the phone and wanted to make a public comment.
Thank you.
Keep it short.
My name is Albert Dame. I'm a consulting toxicologist and environmental health engineer. I'd like to hand out the testimony I presented to this committee 12 years ago in 2003. I'll leave these for the audience. Unfortunately, the testimony still bears repeating. At the time, I was urging this committee to look closely at the studies done by the VA, the DoD, and others they funded on multiple chemical sensitivity. There are 15 abstracts attached to this. The studies that appear to have stopped in 2008. That's very unfortunate because MCS in those studies was consistently found to be present at a higher prevalence among the deployed than chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia combined. It's the single most common diagnosis ever found in any Gulf War veterans study. Dr. Kang found it in over 40% in his largest study of deployed versus non-deployed. And as we heard this morning, it's the reason I came in. I heard Jim on the phone describing MCS. It's the first time I've heard MCS discussed at this meeting, well, since you were created in 2002. So I welcome that discussion has begun. I urge you to continue it. Most of all, I urge you to beg VA to finally list MCS and put clinical guidelines into their hospitals for diagnosing it, because it's still not listed and veterans still cannot get the diagnosis. The second thing on my testimony from 12 years ago is about looking at the relationship and the role of carbon monoxide exposures. The neurologists at the table know that carbon monoxide is not just an external poison, but it's something our bodies make and use all the time. We can't do without it. And so it's a cumulative poison. If we get it in our tissues, it's very hard to get it back out. Dr. White is one of the few VA researchers who studied this both in civilians and in vet exposures. But it wasn't on the IOM list of 33. It wasn't studied specifically in that or any other study, and it remains to be studied. So I've studied it. I've studied it for my doctoral dissertation, and I found two very important things to share with you. One, there is now a biomarker for chronic carbon monoxide poisoning. It takes 1 minute. You can do it with a $200 instrument in a plastic bag. By holding your breath and exhaling into this bag, at 5 seconds you have an arterial sample. At 20 seconds you have a venous sample. And at 35 seconds of breath holding you have a tissue sample. And that shows for the first time what blood cannot, which is that chronic CO poisoning is in tissues. The symptoms are caused by CO in tissues, not CO in blood. So if you just test CO in blood, it looks normal. You have to look beyond blood at breath. It's this simple. The treatment is also very simple. I've helped many Gulf War veterans recover in 4 months. That's how long it takes to turn over the heme protein, so holding the CO. And with 4 months of daily home oxygen therapy or breathing methods, first proposed by Dr. Haldane, we can restore a normal level of CO in arteries, veins, and tissues, and from that point on, the person no longer suffers the chronic multisensory sensitivity that is the hallmark. It differs critically from chemical sensitivity in that people with chemical sensitivity, as Jim described this morning, are hypersensitive to perfumes and odors, while people with multisensory sensitivity from CO poisoning, as I spoke to one that today, confirmed it in just under a minute, they are not just more sensitive to chemicals, but they'll tell you if you ask, I was the first person who asked him, that they're also more sensitive to light, to sound, to touch, to taste, to temperature. That's because carbon monoxide modulates all those thresholds in our nervous system, and we mess with it at our peril. The good news is it's all reversible, and I invite vets who can't get help at the VA to contact me. I don't charge for my services to vets or doctors. The protocol can be done by themselves now, without physicians. They can test themselves, and they can pursue treatment as well on their own if they can't get your help. So I hope you will help them, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. If anyone wants to get tested today, it takes a minute, and I'll stick around. Yes, Jim?
I got a quick one. Yes. You handed out, do you have Claudia Miller's paperwork that you did in the mid-90s?
I do. Claudia Miller inspired my discovery. It was Claudia Miller who discovered that sensitivity to light and sound were as highly significantly correlated with Gulf War veterans' illnesses as sensitivity to chemicals. And when I asked her about this, she says, well, I'm interested in what I call toxicant-induced loss of tolerance, and light and sound are toxicants, so that's the end of my interest. That's what started my interest, however, and I discovered that carbon monoxide is the neurotransmitter of sight and sound and smell, and it's this common pathway that CO controls that brings all the senses into play. But Claudia's the first person to report this, and I chide her for walking away from the finding. I think it was a great finding in her queasy questionnaire that many of you may have taken to see if you have environmental sensitivities, dropped these critical questions because they weren't in sync with her thesis.
Thank you. Trying to move as quickly as we can to get as many that came today.
Well, I guarantee you I'll be real quick, sweet, and to the point, Dr. Hauser, and distinguished members of the RAC. I'm glad to see you here, my fellow veterans. I just got a simple question. You know, I'm one of these veterans for years. You know, the doctor's like, you get symptoms worse than multiple sclerosis. So, you know, I go in, and I've had numerous MRIs, and either they weren't looking or they wasn't paying attention. But the bottom line, I went to the wrist center. I can't see these, I'll take these off. But I wrote a statement. I can't pronounce the fancy words, so I'm not going to try to. Basically, they found volume loss in my bifrontal lobes, volume loss in the cerebellum, the fourth ventricle, and of course there was some blood issues. There's a lot of us that the doctors have been confused. This mimics MS. And there are a lot of us that are finally here this 25 years. We start to get MRIs, and they're finding brain volume loss. And I dare to say this needs to be looked at, because I think you're going to find it's a bigger problem than you realize right now. So I would ask that you do some type of study and find out what's going on in their brains. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tracy Johnston. Paul Johnston spoke with you before. I have a couple of things. One of my questions to you guys, somebody had mentioned it, I believe it was from the A Million Veterans, whatever, program. How can you link identified veterans that are self-identified if you can't, to their medical records, if the VA says the medical records doesn't exist? My husband said he was medevaced out of Saudi Arabia to Germany, to Walter Reed, and then to Walston Hospital in Fort Dix, and then released back to the National Guard. Because of bureaucracy, he didn't get seen until 1993. We proved to the Veterans Board of Affairs that he had everything from Desert Storm, all the way back to when he was medevaced out, when the radiological people came to his unit and said, "Oops, sorry, you're on depleted uranium." My next question: why is it only 1 year? Like the lady before me, she says, you know, it doesn't end at 91. There's other people that served. My husband's unit was there until probably 2000, before 9/11 happened. They kept going back. They buried Abrams tanks and they buried everything down in the desert because they couldn't bring them back home. If they were that toxic to bring it home, why can't there be studies for depleted uranium? Multiple chemical sensitivities, not just sarin, not just, you know, the potassium bromide. Why can't they do all of it, multiples? Also, anthrax. They're one shot. These Desert Storm veterans got one shot. They now have 6 shots over 8 months. There's a guinea pig there. My husband has anthrax. He gets diagnosed from the dermatology. He gets tetracycline from November to April every year from dermatology. Tetracycline kills cutaneous anthrax. What about the families? I was part of the 1993 down in on Capitol Hill. My husband and I are both in the records in front of Joe Kennedy, our inspector, and we were told, fill out the survey, we'll give you a call. I never was seen. My children were never seen. They have multiple symptoms. My daughter has major migraines, precocious puberty. My son had rashes from head to toe, so did my daughter. I had problems, and Paul's, you know, I've been exposed to so much, I've been sick for forever. My other thing is, it's 25 years and we still don't have any answers. The people who served in Desert Storm need answers. The people who are there post 9/11 need answers. It doesn't end in 91. It continues until today. Thank you.
Glenn Stewart.
Come on, man. He's coming. He's got older people.
Hey guys, this is the second time I've been up here at the RAC. Hello to Dr. Steele. You know, hey, I watch your stuff and I really want to thank you. And Dr. Klimas, you know, some of you guys, I don't remember your name offhand, but I really want to thank you for all the work, not giving up on us. You know, when other people with the Department of Veteran Affairs just discarded us like human waste, you guys stuck it out. Anthony, you know, Denise, and so on. I want to thank everyone. Anyway, I put together, you know, I did my little space thing here. I even put an MP4 video together, but I'm really not going to talk about that, you know. What I want to bring to everybody's attention is, number one, okay, talking about, sir, I have a question for you about the brain bank and the spine samples. Is anybody overseeing that? Is there somebody policing to make sure that the data is being collected correctly and it's not being discarded? Who is it being shared with? Because after all the articles I read concerning the VA's brain bank when it came to Gulf War veterans, and the fact that most of it was being utilized for NFL players, I was like, no, you're not getting my brain. I'm sorry. Is there anybody that's actually, you know, policing that?
Yes, there are committees reviewing that from our office, and there are two brain banks. There's one that deals primarily with ALS, Eric's disease, and the other one which is strictly Gulf War.
Is that data being shared with RAC also?
The data would be shared with researchers. The tissue would be shared with researchers who can come to the VA and propose a project that makes sense and is likely to give useful results. So the RAC wouldn't need the data from brain.
See, that's my concern, is that if I go to donate my brain, I want it to be utilized in a correctly. I don't want it to be utilized by a group that's going to try to keep it secret or buried under somewhere.
No, we've got those kinds of safeguards in place.
Okay.
And just so you know, that group just happens to be doing the NFL studies as well, but it has nothing to do with the Gulf War brain bank.
Well,
Just so happens that's the expertise they have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, my concern was when I heard the fact that they only had one GWI brain, and there was like, really?
That's another issue that they're trying to recruit, but the NFL thing is completely separate, just so you know that.
Okay. Excellent. Another thing, I wish you guys would get off the terminology of CMI. These guys right here, all of us, we could tell you right now, the term CMI is offensive, and all it does is it just really ticks us off really bad. CMI is offensive. Please, stop it, knock it off. Real quick, I'm going to keep it short. The one thing that I want to focus on is the fact that, you know, just from my claims alone, I know the RAC doesn't work on claims, but I've conducted 11 interviews with Gulf War veterans, and they're posted online via the YouTube channel. And I've been comparing notes with a lot of these veterans, right? And we all are exhibiting practically identical symptoms when it comes to neurological damage, right? And I'm glad today I was able to hear a lot of that, right? But one of the problems that we're encountering is that if you try to submit a claim, what are you going to submit a claim for neurological? The VA is going to deny your claim. I can bet you. I'll bet you money.
Mine was turned down. Mine was turned down.
Yeah, unless you come down with a specific neurological ailment like MS or ALS, you're not going to get it. You're going to get denied. And if you try to do it as an undiagnosed neurological ailment, it's going to get denied. So the research that's being done right now on the neurological side is promising, but what we're really needing is a name tag, a serial number for this, so that we can now go back to these claim agents, these ROs, and say, look, here's the name for this, and here's the law that covers that. You know, knock it off with the denial claims. I'm going to wrap it up real quick. Anyway, this last winter, I don't know how many more times I'm going to be able to come up here. I can tell you right now, this last winter was rough, big time on here. I don't know how many more years. We really need to push on. You know, you guys have been doing great on the research. We need to start looking at what are we going to do, or what kind of treatments are we going to now start coming up. We know what's broken. We know a lot of things that is broken. But let's start looking at medications, some kind of treatment to give us a better quality of life. Because as it stands right now, I can honestly tell you that this last winter, number one, I had one veteran in Claremore, Oklahoma. He, you know, while everybody's with your family, you know, enjoy your Christmas and so on, he had to be put in a chemically induced coma to save his life. That's how he spent his Christmas. Me, myself, I spent my Christmas in bed hoping that morning that I would pass away. That's how bad I was in pain. I was like, you know, I was in so much pain that, honestly, I felt if somebody would tell me, hey, you're going to pass, you have 1 week to live, that's good news to me. That is good news. I am tired of suffering. I am tired. I'm sick of the pain. I'm tired of suffering. And if nobody can give me the answers, let me go. Let me go. Thank you.
Angie McLeod. And then we'll pick up the others. We're going to do Angie and one more, and then we'll pick up the
Why
others.
don't, can we pick up tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Denise, that's it. Angie, go ahead.
Okay, hi, my name is Angie McGlam, war veteran. I'm good, I had a lot written out, and I'm going to kind of put some of it in short, so for short time. But anyway, I served in the theater during the '91 Gulf War, became ill while there, specifically a few days after the anthrax vaccine, which was also timing of canvassing and early disbursement. I'm here to represent your Gulf War veterans, their spouses, partners, and children, pets, and others when they had close contact, with, and all of our honorable Gulf War ill veterans who have died due to their service to our country. I have some issues or questions. Number one, I'm following up on the status of the VA locating the research information conducted on ill veterans and their spouses and children in the 1990s. Last year, it was spoken that they were not able to locate it, and I was wondering, has it been located, and is anything happening with it?
It's with them computers they lost.
Okay. That's my first question. And I'm gonna go on, and they can answer this later. Is anything being done to communicate and follow up on those that completed the research then, and for present-day veterans and family members and others who are ill? If not, I recommend a registry be started and this information be written in the veterans' medical records. Also, a law should be written for those to be seen at the VA for those conditions. In my opinion, there are too many with problems. It has to be service-connected. Next issue, I completed the Persian Gulf War registry in the early 1990s when I went to the VA. I used to get newsletters in the mail. I've heard recently that the registry that was back then was done away with and a new one was started. I was never notified of this, if it's true. I heard it was a lot more thorough, and I wonder what happened to the first ones. And for the people that completed the first ones, if we're not using them, how do they know that they need to come back in and get another one done? Okay. Next, the anthrax vaccine was administered to many. I read now it was FDA approved and not an issue related to Gulf War illness. However, when I was given the vaccine in country, I was told by my commander and physician administering it was not FDA approved and we had to take it. After returning from the Gulf War, I read an article in the Army Times newspaper regarding the anthrax vaccine. It said the United States ran out of the anthrax vaccine and had to get it from Japan. Japan, did anyone follow up? Was it FDA approved? Did they have the same standards that the United States had? Have they done any research on what Japan did give us, or what did we get? I'm interested in that, because I've not heard that talked about, okay?
And it might be useful if you could perhaps write down these questions. Obviously, they're difficult questions to answer around a committee like this. And Vic, is there a way to have these addressed? Some of them relate to the business of the RAC, and some may relate more to other
We got the
bureaus.
visit with the undersheriff.
It
can be addressed tomorrow.
Documents that become part of the record.
Yeah.
They even go up on the website.
Say it.
The questions would, and then we would look into the questions.
Right, I'm planning on having it written up for you.
Do it.
Okay. Also for the RAC with the unit locations and timelines, in the early 90s, the DOD had no idea where the units were at, and now they've come out with it, and my unit and timeline is not correct.
So
That means, if that's going to be used as a biomarker, that's very important. Okay.
So I will ask
Andy, we got
if you
some.
could put it in writing for us.
Okay. Okay, I had some really good ones for the last.
Thank you.
So maybe next
Okay.
time you can lead with the best one.
Okay, or maybe continue.
You want to ask one last one?
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you all, I'll just say thank you all for all the good work that you're doing and for not giving up on us, and it's outstanding, and I really enjoy being here because I get to hear what is really going on and try to help others, spread it to others, and VA doctors and stuff. Thank you.
We'll continue tomorrow with phone call.
Thank you.
Try to move
Well, on behalf of the committee,
Are we going to be able to get to the
this was a
Tomorrow.
long day for all of us, but I think the highlight was the last 45 minutes, and I thank you for staying to the end and making this not only an issue of science, but an issue of people.
Those on the phone, Denise, will pick up the public comments tomorrow. I didn't forget you were there. We're trying to get the ones that came in person. So we'll have another public comment tomorrow. I heard Ed ask